Oh my god. Even StreamYards. Okay, there we go. Should be live on Instagram. I wanted to figure that out. I don't even know why I ran intro. I didn't even need to do that. But alright. Over the top talk live. Yeah, that's all I care about. Think yeah, we're on Instagram. And oh my god, I can actually put the bro, why does it look like that?
What?
Hold on.
Bro, are we live right now?
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. It looks so terrible on Instagram. Actually, I guess it does like that. Bro, because on Instagram it like shaves us in half almost. What the hell? Alright, no, that's fine. No, okay, no, I'm leaving it like that. I don't care. Instagram, I figured out. YouTube might be fine too. Hold on. Let me go check the YouTube before we actually get into this. Make sure we're actually live there.
Okay,
Actually, we
I
are live there.
shouldn't sing that
Perfect.
song while we're live.
Yeah, but probably not. How's it
Alright,
going, Randy? Over on Instagram, how are you?
what's
Uh,
up?
I always make sure to keep up with your street interview. Well, not street interviews, but interviews. But how's it going over there on Instagram? And for people on TikTok, I know I have it in front of me. I didn't set it up for this, but me and Anthony probably gonna spend the next about hour probably talking about just the Royal Rumble. Then just stuff that happened over on Raw last night. It's pretty much the goal for a nice little short when we're live on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok tonight. Feel free to join the conversation as well. It's good. We'll be in Hartford, Connecticut this week, and I think I saw that. And then I know I should probably keep up with Cage Shines more, but I know Cage Shines is having an event soon, so I might try and pull up to that, but we'll see what happens. But with no further ado, Anthony, let's just
Yes, sir.
get right into it because I know that's what people are waiting for over on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. So first thing I just want to ask you, I know we get the Royal Rumble. We're a few days out now. We have the winners. We even
Yeah.
have one of the matches, which we'll talk about a little later. But how did you feel about this Saudi Rumble in general? Like just in
Um,
general before we get into like the matches that occurred.
well, I have multiple things actually. So, I feel like the big elephant in the room is, how over in Saudi Arabia, women don't really have rights and they can't wear the uniforms or clothes that they would normally wear elsewhere, which I feel like is kind of put a damper on it. It feels kind of unfair towards them a little bit. Um, I thought each match had very high quality. I thought they were all good. I thought the atmosphere was fun, really nice. And that new stadium that they built in like 3 weeks, which is crazy that they managed to make that in 3 weeks. But it was pretty cool. The lighting was awesome. For the majority of the show, the crowd was great. So I got to give it a thumbs up, in my opinion.
Yeah, and obviously I know there was a lot of people, I guess you can say, questioning about the crowd maybe being empty, but there was multiple creators or just people there, I should say, that were there and said it was not empty, wasn't even close to empty. It was just like the lighting, how they set it up. I think they had the chairs with like the lights behind them, similar to what they did I think in France or Lyon
Hmm.
whenever they went there with the lights. So it looked empty. It wasn't.
Yeah.
Um, my overall take, it's not terrible. I just the whole Saudi Arabia thing. I know they're trying to push it because they have WrestleMania there next year, so they kind of have to push it. I don't think the woman. Probably some of them, if you ask them truthfully, they probably said they don't really like competing over there. But I think other than that, it wasn't a terrible event. I think there could have been some, things that happened specifically with the men's Royal Rumble. There were a lot of moments. I think people were a little bit upset about. Kind of
Yeah,
maybe the length of the men's match, because I know there was a stat earlier that said I think Charlotte Flair was in the match for 59 minutes, and I think that was longer than the men's match itself, which is kind of crazy to think
yeah,
about.
that's
But
crazy.
when we kind of start, talking about these matches, so we had the Women's Royal Rumble first, which we know Liv Morgan won, but um, there was a lot of real talent in that match, I think, and a lot of. Um, I think it was way better than the men's one. I don't know if that was on purpose or for any reason at all, but obviously they nailed it with the women's match. Kind
Yep.
of highlighted a couple of stars that we might even see on the main roster soon. But maybe what were your favorite points or moments that happened in that women's Royal Rumble?
Well, I have a bunch actually, quite a few. I feel like overall the women's rumble did a much better job at like building storylines other than the men's. I feel like the men's rumble didn't do much of that. A few high points of it would probably be you saw Kairi Sane and Asuka have that moment where she accidentally eliminated her, and then she grabbed her by her hair and like dragged her out of the stadium, which was pretty cool. Um, you saw some great high flying moments. You saw Ruka get advertised quite a bit. She was in the Rumble for a very long time. Jordan Grace was awesome to see. Kalani Jordan was a really nice pleasure to get not called up but showcased in there. And JC Jane being in there was really awesome. But I think the biggest moment in the entire Rumble was probably Liv Morgan eliminating Raquel Rodriguez. I think that moment was great. That's going to cause issues throughout the Judgment Day. And obviously, I didn't touch on Tiffany returning, which is also cool. But Liv getting that moment over Raquel, and you see Raquel being all mad outside the ring. So I think we're going to see that escalate to a much higher level in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, and obviously we saw some of that last night with Liv and Raquel kind of maybe hinting that they'll have some issues down the line, maybe even at Mania. I mean, I think that's probably the direction they're going. I don't know. I think Raquel might be the champion going into Mania, and they might do it then. But I, I don't know if Raquel is going to win the belt before then. That's just me kind of planning a few months out and kind of trying to predict things early. But um, then we obviously had the moment that we have to talk about because it's kind of unfortunate because we know well, I don't know if you can call it the end of AJ Styles' wrestling career, but for some reports, they are saying that AJ Styles is, I think, taking some type of backstage role. I don't know if it's yet or if it's after this year, but I guess we'll figure out those uh, down the line. But just talking about Gunther versus AJ Styles for a quick minute, I don't
Yeah.
think the match was terrible. I think we all kind of knew that AJ Styles was going to lose just because of how they set up his last couple weeks. Facing Nakamura or facing CM Punk, just some last matches that they wanted to get him before he left. Um, the only thing I'm confused about is what they're kind of doing with Gunther now, because we know he's kind of going on these side quests, but it's almost like I was thinking about this earlier. They're make him retire all these people, make him this huge hail, but
Hmm.
I don't know what their plan is now because there's really no people that are close to retiring or people he can retire. I mean, maybe you can count Rey Mysterio, but I don't think they're gonna have Rey Mysterio. I don't think he's retiring just yet. But what do you think because I was trying to think about this earlier. What do you think their path? Because it's hard to predict WWE's path sometimes for certain stars. But now that Gunther's kind of finished with AJ, he has about 3 retirements under his belt.
Yeah.
Where do you think they um, want him to, or what do you think Gunther's path is like as of now?
I mean, you like kind of hit it spot on because with them, trademarking that whole name, the career killer. and all that stuff. Um, I feel like they're kind of booking themselves into a corner with Gunther. I feel like obviously they're gonna run out of people for him to retire. You got, CM Punk, Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio, you got all them, but they're probably like a year or two out from fully retiring. So what do we do now with him? When he's not chasing a title, he's obviously probably going to stay in the main event scene on Raw. But, that's been taken over by the Vision almost fully. You have CM Punk up there with the world title, but I don't know if you want Gunther chasing a world title again. I feel like as of right now, there is not a lot for them to do with Gunther, unfortunately. Um, and if he's like gonna stay down low right now, as we saw last night on Raw, he was starting to like feud with like maybe starting to feud with Dragon Lee. Which, come on, like I'm not saying like anything against Dragon Lee, but that feels like filler. That feels like a filler feud. So if he's just gonna feud with the Lucha Bros, and like go with Dragon Lee, then Penta, and kind of go through this whole entire cycle, I feel like they might be actually gearing up for a Rey Mysterio retirement because he's obviously with them. So I think Gunther is just honestly going to be feuding with Penta and Dragon Lee, and then the inevitable Rey Mysterio retirement.
Yeah, and I think that is true as well because we know, unless he wins the Chamber, which I don't see, because we have Drew
Oh,
McIntyre,
please
who's
no.
obviously the Hale, and unless they want to do a Hale versus Hale, I think he's kind of out of that picture. I think he'll be in the match potentially, but I don't think he'll win.
Yeah.
Um, then we have Roman Reigns facing CM Punk, so he's pretty much out of the two, world title pictures at least for now. Out of the Intercontinental Championship, so yeah, probably like you, he'll probably. I don't know what path they wanted him to kind of go on, being the career killer, if that's what they want to call him, and now
Yeah.
having him feud with pretty much, like you said, probably Penta. Then Dragon Lee will probably be back next week to get some revenge. But yeah, it's kind of a tough time. It's kind of similar to what they are kind of doing with LA Knight almost, which we'll talk about later and some of my issues with that. But
Yeah.
kind of moving on with, just to spend just a quick short minute on Drew McIntyre and Sami Zayn, which we saw Drew McIntyre obviously win that match. It was an all right match. I don't think it was the best match, but we had Sami Zayn lose for, I think, I don't know what it is, the 11th or
12th.
12th
Yep.
time to
12th
Drew,
time.
12th time to Drew
Yep.
McIntyre. So now he'll probably be, or Sammy will probably be thrown right back into the rotation of Elimination Chamber. We know they're starting those qualifier matches next Monday, so we'll talk about that once we get there and we start kind of making the Elimination Chamber card, which it's almost, I mean, probably less than 3 weeks away now from the Elimination Chamber. I think it's very at the end of the month here, but
Yep.
kind of interested what they do with that. Nothing to really talk about with Drew right now until we get that match kind of card made, or the Elimination Chamber match. So I guess I'll hold on. I'll hold off on that and kind of move on to the men's Royal Rumble, which there's a lot of talking points about this. A lot of, we saw Powerhouse Hobbs debut. There was the Obafemi star in the match. There was obviously the Braun Breaker and Masked Man situation at the beginning of the
Good
event,
God.
which
Yeah.
Braun Breaker got eliminated in like 8 seconds or something like that, very quick, which was unfortunate because I knew Braun Breaker was kind of. I really didn't expect that at all, but I think they might be cooking with the Masked Man, like they always love these gimmicks, but depending on who it is, I'm curious. But um, my issues with this match, and it wasn't really like the start or like the middle. It was more when Brock Lesnar was in there, and there was a situation that a lot of people are talking about where Dragunov was kind of hitting him with chops. Brock was pretty much no selling, and then he threw Dragunov out of the ring, which we all know Dragunov. That's kind of it. hit to him to kind of have Brock just no sell his moves and throw him out
Yeah.
when they've kind of been treating Dragunov over on SmackDown as like, I don't know, as almost a villain, but they've been treating him like pretty well, like he's a powerhouse over on there, and then Brock pretty much made him, look the opposite by throwing him right out, kind of making him look like a jobber.
Hmm.
And then kind of with Brock, then they have Brock get eliminated during Jey Uso's entrance, which I thought was a little bit weird too. So there was a lot of situations towards the end of that Rumble match that were a little bit confusing, but um, with the Rumble, I think the talking point right now that I kind of want to have is, um, who do we think the Masked Man is? Because I was thinking about making a rail out of this, so I probably will. And
Yeah.
I think there's three possible scenarios here, or more like two. There was three. I think
Hmm.
it's either maybe the obvious one that they've been saying is Seth Rollins, but I think when you look at the guy up close, and he has the same kind of form and build as this guy I'm going to mention, but I think the second guy you have to bring into the conversation is Logan Paul, and the reason I do is just because of last night on Raw. They mentioned how it could be Seth Rollins, and then they mentioned how it could be Austin Theory. So I think that eliminates both of them,
Yeah.
and I think the only guy that it really could have been was Logan Paul, which I'm really interested. But I guess I'll ask you if you
Yeah.
agree if it was Logan Paul or not.
Yeah. I fully agree because we saw on the SmackDown right before the Rumble, we saw Logan Paul saying how the plan should be by any means possible that Braun Breaker wins the whole thing. He said that should be the vision, that should be the plan. And I think that was a swerve to try to get us to think that Logan Paul was on his side, still aligned with him. But the build, the look, you could even see like the blonde beard a little bit through the little circle of his mouth. Like I wholeheartedly believe that was Logan Paul who jumped him, got him eliminated, and I do have something I want to say about it that I hope doesn't come true. And I think you might know where I'm going with this. It's I hope they don't run it dry. I hope they don't wait a month out to finally introduce who this masked man is. After everyone's tired of it, after him constantly coming out on Raw, maybe attacking the Vision or attacking somebody else. Um, I don't know how he would do that, given the fact that he's always out with the Vision. Like, how would he, break off from them and kind of be in the masked man suit and not be out there with them, which is kind of confusing. So would it be planned attacks on Braun Breaker and like his matches, or planned attacks on him backstage or something like that? I don't know, but it's something that I'm definitely interested in. It's definitely made Raw more, get more excited about Raw going into the weeks. Would this burn over into a WrestleMania feud? I'm not sure. Will he ever find out it was Logan Paul? I don't know, because it feels like as of right now they're kind of doing the same exact route as Theory. We have the other idea that he could also be working with Seth Rollins, him and Theory working together. Um, Theory, Logan Paul, and Seth Rollins as a new faction to take out the Vision, maybe. But I'm definitely intrigued. I want to see where they go with it, and hopefully we get the answer soon.
Yeah, and obviously kind of building off that, when it comes to Logan Paul, I was trying to think of where they're gonna go with this. I know, like you said, we're hope they don't drag it out too far, because I know they love to do that. So I don't know if I know they'll probably reveal it at some point because they probably want to make a match out of it, but I don't know if that's gonna be the. I could see that being a Mania match potentially, because I know that two world title pictures are pretty much out for anyone in the Vision. So I'm curious if they're trying to do
Hmm.
Braun Breaker versus Logan Paul at Mania, or. But my other thing is, I don't know if this Logan Paul, like, if once they reveal it and it is hopefully Logan Paul and we're on the right path here. I don't know if that means, like, is Braun Breaker getting kicked out? Did the other Vision members know that Logan was going to do this? I don't know what
Mhm.
path they're going to go with that, but then I was trying to think that when this Vision group was kind of first formed, we saw like when Logan Paul joined, he really didn't immediately join.
Yeah.
He almost teamed up or he helped CM Punk kind of get out of that mess. And I always remember that he joined the Vision kind of abruptly. Um,
Mhm.
and it really only took like one show, where at the end of that show he knocked out CM Punk. So I'm
Yeah.
curious if they're trying to make some type of face Logan Paul here, and maybe probably put Logan Paul on his own, which I'd assume they're probably going to do. Put Logan Paul back on his own, maybe turn him into a face, because we saw him as a face quickly when he had that moment with CM Punk months back when the Vision was first formed. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm definitely curious what they do with this. And obviously we're in their elimination chamber now. We had Raw last night, which honestly started with Braun Breaker and him kind of crashing out. So I guess we can talk about that.
Mhm.
Or talk about the other thing that happened, and the other kind of discussion point maybe is we have that, Braun Breaker crash out. Pierce comes out, kind of says he's not really involved with anything with the Masked Man. He doesn't know who he is, doesn't know how he got there. And then we obviously heard the music of LA Knight, who was still feuding with the Vision.
Yeah.
We all know he was out because of Bronson Reed putting him through that car. But now he's back. He's feuding with them again. We saw him twice last night, two instances of it. Um, the only thing, and I feel like we have this conversation a lot, but um, do we feel like they're still mistreating LA Knight, or maybe don't have plans for him right now because, he just came back from injury, and I know he's getting, maybe some revenge on the Vision
Yeah.
for injuring him and putting him out, but I really, I'm very confused what they're going to do with LA Knight here, because we know we have the Chamber, so you could have some type of match with him and Bronson Reed at the Chamber, or you could just put it on Raw. But either
Yeah.
way, how do you feel like they're treating LA Knight, and what path do you think they're trying to send him on?
You know, it can be it's confusing because there's two roads they can go on here. If you remember back in 2022 when the Judgment Day were at like full power on Raw, um, they would throw in stars to feud with the Judgment Day on a week in and week out basis when they had no plans for them, where you would just go feud with them over and over and over again. And that's kind of the fear that I have with LA Knight, that they have no plans for him whatsoever, so they just throw him back in with the Vision as filler until they have something for him. The other thing that they could be doing, which hopefully it is he gets a big win over Bronson Reed or Braun Breaker at a PLE event that counts. If he can do that, that could elevate his stock tremendously. Um, Personally, with me, I want to see LA Knight be in the main event scene. I want to see LA Knight be a champion. I want to see him get the treatment he deserves because he is one of, or probably in my top 10 favorite current stars on the roster. And to see him kind of get mistreated like this is unfair, definitely. So, it all depends on where they see his stock and his value at it. We know Baldy doesn't really like to push him that much. But if we see LA Knight start to get a push here, and this run right here is kind of the make it or break it type run. If he just stays feuding with the Vision for the next, I don't know, 6, 7 months down the line, then you know they got nothing. But if he actually starts to go up the card and he starts to look good and decent and get important wins under his belt, I think there is a good chance that he eventually gets the push that he deserves.
Yeah, and we've probably been talking for, since we started this podcast. It's kind of crazy that they have LA Knight pretty much in the same spot, and we started this podcast close to 2 years.
Yeah,
For everyone watching, we're almost at our 2 year podcast anniversary, which is kind of crazy to think about. But
which is nuts.
and it's also crazy to think about that LA Knight's pretty much in the same spot that he was 2 years ago. So I don't know if he's ever gonna get that full main event push. We've seen teases of it, but we've never got the full. He's never won anything that's like worth of value besides the United States Championship, which is more of a mid card. So I
Yeah,
hope we see him in the main title picture, but like I said, it's been 2 years of him kind of being in the same spot. So I don't know if we're gonna see that, unfortunately. But
I hope
moving, kind of moving past that and moving on to what we saw in Raw. Next was the Javon Evans versus, I guess you can call it one of the El Grande Americano or the fake El Grande Americano because,
so. Yeah.
um, first of all, the match was amazing. I really think Javon Evans, is fit on the main roster perfectly. I think he should have came up probably months ago. I don't. He's honestly looked perfect on the main roster. We know
Hmm.
he's had that shoulder kind of tweaked it a couple weeks ago, but he's been doing fine regardless. Had a great. I forgot to mention that Javon Evans had a great Royal Rumble experience as well, or
Yeah.
performance. He lasted the longest out of everybody. Forget what that official time was, but
Hmm.
Javon Evans was the Iron Man of the Rumble, so that kind of already tells you the direction they're going with him, and he honestly deserves it because he's facing these kind of low tier guys, and he's putting on really good matches. So I'm really hoping they start pushing, or maybe pushing him in the mid card title, maybe the Intercontinental Championship soon enough. But
Yeah.
um, the main point of this match specifically was we saw um, the real El Grande Americano kind of. We heard his music hit, then he kind of sat on the middle of the ramp doing his signature pose with his two fingers up.
Gracias.
Which, first of all, Chad Gable is, completely just jacked. He honestly looks the top shape he's been in probably since he joined the company. So, um, the path I think we know they're going with that is they'll probably just have the two Americanos probably go at it. I don't know. I would assume that might be the mania, one of the mania matches. Unfortunately, I think they might drag it out that far, but maybe
Yeah.
do like some type of mask versus mask where you have to get revealed to lose. I think that would make the match at least interesting. So we could finally, we kind of know who they are, but we haven't seen them. So I guess mask versus mask would make that Mania match a little bit more entertaining because we're um, a long while out and we're kind of just starting this feud now. So,
Hmm.
but I guess the short question I have, and I kind of just said it, but do you think they're trying to have the El Grande Americanos face off at Mania? Or do you think they'll do it sooner?
Um. Well, I looked last night. So as of today, believe it or not, WrestleMania is 74 days away. All right. That is give or take 2.5 months. So if they want to drag this feud out until Mania, they have to find a way to not make it, dry, boring, people losing interest because that's the last thing you want. If I were them, I would have this match somewhere different. I would have this match before WrestleMania. Obviously, they definitely won on the main roster. I was thinking to myself, maybe they put it in AAA because that's where El Grande, well, Kaiser's a American, whatever. I feel like that's where he's the most active. That's where he's having his most matches week in and week out. And that's where he's known and loved. I don't know what their play would be to make it interesting because if it's just Chad Gable coming out every single week, interrupting his matches and doing the thank you, that's kind of like that's gonna get really old really fast. Um, he can't just come out and pose and aura farm for like 10 minutes straight. He's gotta make it interesting. Maybe we see maybe we see him kind of go up against what are their names? Rio and the other one. I can't even remember their
I
names.
couldn't tell you.
Well, it's obviously it's Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. We know that, but if they were to have matches beforehand with Chad, cool, that'd be awesome. Do we see him go back with American Made? I don't know. It seems like he's back as a face. So I wouldn't be sure if they would do that because American Made are heel right now. Ivy Nile, Brutus Creed, and the other one, Julius Creed. But to make it interesting, I think you should have these little spin-off matches with them, have them face the two other ones, and then kind of build towards the one with the Mano Grande Americano.
Yeah, and then moving down Raw, we had the return of, well, we thought it was the return of AJ Styles.
Oh God.
I think a lot of people knew it was gonna be Gunther, but AJ Styles music hits, and then we see Gunther once again, which kind of just leads to the same promo that we honestly see every time we see Gunther.
Yeah.
How he's kind of just glowing around the ring about how he took out retired AJ Styles, which then we saw Dragon Lee come down to the ring and kind of stop that.
Yeah.
Um, he attacked. He was on the upper hand on Gunther for a while, and then we saw a scene that I honestly wish I had the picture, but the scene of
Here, you know what? I'm showing it right now on the screen, bro. Is this a picture of him just like I'm putting it to the camera right now? Probably not gonna focus that well, but that picture right
yeah,
there is absolutely hilarious. That is hilarious.
yeah, and we talked about Gunther kind of earlier, so we won't spend too much time. But um, do you think we'll see? Well, I think we'll see Dragon Lee versus Gunther, but how do you think Gunther versus Dragon Lee is going to be more of a Raw match, or do you think they're going to throw that on one of the PLEs? I don't, I don't know if we have a Saturday night's main event coming up at some point, but
If I have to see Gunther versus Dragon Lee on a PLE, I'm going to blow my head off. All right, is that I'm sorry. I feel bad saying this. Dragon Lee is not a main event star. That feud is a nothing burger at all. You're gonna see Gunther squash him, and that's what it should be. But knowing them, knowing how they treat Gunther, Gunther was saying, "I am the one who tapped out John Cena." He was saying that for like a month and a half straight before. That was what they were going off of. And you're right. His promos are the same every single week. So I would not be surprised if they drag this out, have him face Dragon Lee at, the Chamber. I don't know when the next Saturday night's main event is. I don't know if there's one before Mania or not. But I can look that up in a little bit. Um, but if it was for me, I would hopefully think and love to see that on a random Raw. And then you kind of have to include Penta and Rey Mysterio in on it. So then you can kind of go through Dragon Lee and then go through Penta and then have that blow off feud with Rey Mysterio, which would probably end up being at a WrestleMania. Hopefully not SummerSlam. That would make me throw up. That is like forever away. But let's maybe get that match at WrestleMania, Gunther versus Rey Mysterio as a I don't know if he would convince him to put his career on the line. If he does, he does. If he doesn't, he doesn't. I would like to see Ray stick around for a little bit longer, but if they end up doing the career match, cool. But it would just be another person that Gunther would put on his belt of retirements.
yeah, which then we, um, when we moved down Raw, we were supposed to see we were supposed to see the War Raiders, go up against somebody. I don't think that was ever planned, but
Hmm.
we obviously saw Obafemi on Raw, which we know he's a free agent. So I don't know if he's officially part of Raw or if we'll see him during a segment there in SmackDown. But
Hmm.
we saw Obafemi. We saw what he did to the War Raiders. Pretty much annihilated them, took them out, which I thought was a little bit confusing. understand we're trying to make Oba a this
Mhm.
huge enemy, obviously a powerhouse, but it kind of eliminates or makes one of the tag teams look like they're not as destructive, and
Yeah.
that tag team division is just so weak that I just thought it was a little weird to just have the pretty much the strongest tag team get taken out. But at the end of the day, I understand that they're pretty much debuting Obafemi.
Yeah.
I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if it's if he's gonna be on Raw or SmackDown. I hope we see him on SmackDown. Maybe
Yeah.
take out another team, maybe disrupt a match or something. But I think we might be looking at the newest member of Raw. I think that's what the vibes were, and I
Oh
hope
yeah.
that's what it is because now we have a lot of talent. Even over on SmackDown, the SmackDown shows haven't been bad recently, so I think adding another star to Raw is the right move. I don't know what they're gonna. I don't know once Obafemi's finally settled. I don't know what they're gonna do with them first, but
Mhm.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. Maybe a few, like maybe he hops in a feud with the Vision. I think there's a lot of great matches he could have, versus Bronson Reed, some of the powerhouses, even
Yeah.
running Obafemi versus Braun Breaker. I don't know if they'll do that this early, but I think that's a match that would be really good. But I guess I'll ask you what are because I've
Yeah.
kind of talked about some of the matches I'd want to see with Obafemi, but when it comes to Obafemi, what are three matches of or that he can have on Raw right now that you would want to see?
Well, right now, I would love to see. Let me think here. There's quite a few. On a side note, this is the same thing they did with Brock Lesnar back in the day. They had him just annihilate tag teams when he first debuted. So I think that's a cool callback. It's definitely a callback to Brock Lesnar because they probably see him as that star. But three people on Raw. Let me think. Um, bro, this is hard because Raw's dead. Um, like I feel like he just annihilates everybody on Raw. I feel like the best feuds you kind of named, him versus Braun Breaker is a dream feud. That's a dream match right there. Him versus Bronson Reed, that's another one that would be phenomenal to see. Um, I have I'll do a couple more because you said those two. I'll give you my actual three different ones, three new ones. Let me give you I think him versus Gunther would be fun to see. Let me get him versus Gunther in a match. Them being big guys, I think they would put on a banger. I want to see him versus Sheamus, believe it or not, on Raw. That would be fun to see. And lastly, if he ends up joining Raw and not SmackDown, I want to see him versus Powerhouse Hobbs or Royce Keys, how he's known. I think those three matches would be really fun to see. Gunther, Sheamus, and Hobbs. I think that would definitely tear the house down.
Yeah, and I always see a lot of people looking forward to him finally settled onto a show, which is hopefully Raw. I think that's the direction they're going.
Hmm.
Hopefully, have him on Raw. See what feuds they make for him right away. I'm very curious because I don't really have an idea where they're gonna officially start him, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. And kind of towards the end of the show, um, we had a few things happen. We had obviously the Bella twins make their first walk down to the ring for I think 7 years or something like that,
Yeah,
and now we know they're looking to go after the uh, Rio, I guess you can call it, Io Sky and Rhea Ripley's women's tag team championships. That's where they're headed. I don't know how soon we're gonna get that,
yeah,
but I think when you look at that matchup and kind of early thoughts of the Bella Twins versus Rio, I honestly don't know how that match is going to go because we obviously haven't seen Brie in a while.
yeah,
We already know what Nikki Bella kind of gives us. I think a lot of people critique both of their wrestling styles, so I'm very
yeah.
interested how that match is going to go. Do you see the Bella Twins winning gold, or do you think this whole thing is just going to be like a one match thing, and then we kind of won't see much of Brie or Nikki Bella for however long?
Um, I I feel bad saying this. This is gonna sound mean, all right? But given the fact of Rio, you have you have Io Sky, who is a high flyer. She has a crazy move set. She does the over the moonsault. And then you have Rhea Ripley, who is she is one of the powerhouses of the women's division. Um, I don't think the Bellas can keep up with them. I'm gonna be dead. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think if one of them takes one annihilator from Rhea, it's done. Like they're going back into retirement. See you later. Have a nice day. Um, I don't think they can hold a torch to the way they wrestle. I don't think they're built for it. I don't think their style really calls for that type of match. And with Rio holding the titles, I don't see them winning. I really don't. Um, I don't see them beating any of the current women's tag teams that are on the roster right now. I think they are far too good, far too serious, and I just think they out wrestle them in every way possible.
Yeah, and think in general it just shows their age because when they wrestled 10 years ago or whatever it was, 7 years or even 7 years ago, wrestling
Yeah,
for the women's was obviously I don't want to call it this, but kind of weak back then.
yeah,
Now it's like pretty much every superstar for the women's is like very talented and you know really doesn't fit what the Bellas used to be when they wrestled back then. So I'm honestly curious how the match goes with this kind of the newer age versus the old age. Very interested. I don't know when they're gonna run that. Probably on Raw at some point. We know they mentioned it last night, so usually once something's mentioned, they don't waste time.
yeah,
So it'll probably be a match we see on Raw soon. I'm honestly looking forward to it just to see. I'm honestly intrigued on how it's gonna go because, like I just mentioned, it's the old age versus the new or firepower. So um,
yep,
I don't think the Bellas are winning gold anytime soon, but I guess that the only thing you can say is I'm kind of maybe you can say you're glad they're back. I know a lot of fans were excited to have them kind of reunited, so I think that's a little bit cool. But wrestling kind of on the downside, so
yeah,
um, sticking with females and feuds we got going on. I mentioned it earlier, but or I guess I'll just talk about the match first. But we had Raquel versus Stephanie Valkyr in a street fight, which street fights nowadays aren't what they used to be.
nope, not at
A
all.
street fight now is just they stay in the ring. They might go outside for a few spots, but street fights, really have
Come
gone
on.
down on the downside.
Like, bro,
Mm,
to interrupt real quick. Let me interrupt real quick. Bro, if you had a street fight back in the Attitude Era, like Austin versus somebody, you're going to the friggin' lake. You're going all the way out to like across the road. You're getting thrown into a bay. It's like it's done. You're gonna get like lit on fire by like somebody, bro. Back in the day, the street fights were wild.
yeah, and street fights, like you said, haven't been the same in probably about 20 years or so. So
Yeah,
I like to call it more no, maybe no DQ. I don't know why they love calling it, street fights. They throw that name around like every second now, but
yeah,
um, which that match resulted in Stephanie Valkyr getting the win. But I think the huge talking point when we mentioned it earlier, Liv Morgan has that choice now of who she wants to face at Mania. All signs point to she's gonna face Stephanie Valkyr. I
hmm,
don't like I mentioned earlier. I don't know if it's gonna be Stephanie Valkyr. I could see Raquel taking the title off of Stephanie before we get to Mania season, and then we see Liv Morgan versus Raquel, which is what I think they're
yeah,
gonna do. They teased it last night with obviously Raquel asked Liv why she threw her out of the ring at the Rumble, and Liv didn't really have an explanation besides every person for themselves. So
Mhm.
my question to you is: do you think it's going to be Stephanie Valkyr versus Liv Morgan, or Liv Morgan versus Raquel once it comes to WrestleMania season?
Yeah. For the longest time now, I've been saying it's gonna be Liv versus Raquel. I wholeheartedly believe at some point from now to Mania, we are going to see Raquel take that belt off of Stephanie. Um, they could do it in some sort of in a cooler way, in my opinion. Let's us think how they could get the belt off of Stephanie without, her taking a pinfall that could lower her stock or whatever. Um, and the first thing that yells out is her ankle. That ankle that has been giving her trouble, which got targeted last night, that she no sold first off. That was a come on, bro. But that ankle's been getting attacked now for multiple weeks. If Raquel keeps on doing stuff to her like this and keep on attacking her, she may be forced to relinquish the belt at some point, some way. Um, and maybe we see Raquel win that way. But in my eyes, the much more intriguing match is Raquel versus Liv. Not only because of them being in the Judgment Day, but it's because of how Liv has always faced against larger opponents. Um, if you've seen Stephanie, her and Liv are like relatively the same size. But if you like look back at SummerSlam, Liv versus like Rhea is a good example. Those matches have always been great. Seeing Liv kind of take down the big bad in a way. She's always looked good against larger opponents. So I think that's a more intriguing match. And obviously their history definitely does play, a way into it.
Yeah, and obviously I'm a huge Liv Morgan fan, as probably I've mentioned right before. I even have a Liv Morgan signed Funko and sports car back there. But if I were to choose, I don't know how they're really gonna do it. The ideas that you mentioned were pretty good, but I'm hoping we see Liv Morgan versus Raquel at Mania. We have a couple months now until then, so I'm curious what matches we'll see happen. What will happen with that feud? If we'll actually see Liv Morgan and Raquel maybe split up, but we have about 2.5 months, so I'm curious what storylines we start to fill. Liv Morgan will probably have her. She'll probably choose Stephanie Valkyrie as her opponent soon. So I'm curious what once that happens, if she'll face Stephanie Valkyrie or not. But we have 2.5 months, so and a lot of these live streams and discussion boards. So I get. I guess we'll just play the waiting game for now. But
Yeah.
to kind of cap this short little live stream off, we had the return of Roman Reigns to Raw
Yes,
after
sir.
a few months of him being gone. We know he makes his annual returns every few months, but we had him come down, and not too long after, CM Punk came down to kind of interrupt him and call out Finn Balor, which I thought was interesting. We'll probably see CM Punk versus Finn Balor at some point on the road to WrestleMania. And we saw a Finn Balor kind of video package earlier in the night, so we'll definitely get CM Punk versus Finn Balor at some point. But um, the I think when it comes to promos, I think Roman and CM Punk put on one of the top ones that we've seen in a while.
Oh
There
yeah.
was a lot of emotion coming from both sides, especially Roman kind of talking to Punk. He mentioned or called Punk Phil, I think twice. Mentioned how Punk took a 10-year vacation. So, and I know the original plans were to have Seth Rollins versus Roman, but obviously CM Punk versus Roman is just as good. The storyline just as good. We know they both hate each other, which dates back to when CM Punk first left, and even when way back to when the Shale was still a thing. So
Hmm.
this has been hatred that has gone on for a while. So I'm really looking forward to how um, we see these promos, these little, probably back and forths, but um, how do you feel overall about Roman Reigns versus CM Punk
Hmm.
at WrestleMania?
Well, I come out clean here and tell you before, like when Roman first won the Rumble, I was like, out of anybody that won this, Roman is like the least who needs it. He does not need this win. He's already a made star. But after seeing that promo last night, it fully changed my mind and the way I'm looking at it now. I am like so hyped for this match after like seeing Punk's first like okay, well, what do you see, bro? Come on.
Nah, bro, because
I,
Uncle Steve over on Instagram said he enjoys it. It was when we were talking about Femi. He said he did not like your Sheamus pick. He does not want to
why?
see Sheamus versus Femi.
Why?
I might be a discussion he might have to have with Uncle Steve later, but
All right, yeah. See what we're
he
talking about
just
this. What we
that
talking
was
about
a
this?
shot at you. But
Yeah, we'll talk. But anyway, what I was saying is, CM Punk had that first promo where he was going into Roman Reigns, and Roman was kind of just sitting there taking it all in. And then when he came up, he just fully sliced into CM Punk. He went in on him. He went crazy. It was a crazy promo, and he promised at the end at WrestleMania, CM Punk will acknowledge him. And that just gave me chills down my spine. And I would love to see Roman Reigns beat Punk at Mania. I want to see Roman Reigns hold that gold title. He never held that championship yet, the world heavyweight title, and I think they're gonna pivot towards a way. This is like a very early prediction. This is my last thing I'm gonna say. Very early prediction. Roman Reigns beats Punk. He holds the belt, and then Seth Rollins starts hunting him down for it. So I feel like that's gonna be a great play, and I'm just so hyped for it.
yeah, and that's obviously our first WrestleMania confirmed matchup: Roman Reigns versus CM Punk. Um, we'll most definitely be getting more promos like we saw last night. We'll probably get a response one from CM Punk because we know CM Punk on the mic when he wants to is really good on the mic. So I'm assuming we'll get more of these promos, maybe probably next week, but we'll end on the road to WrestleMania. But um, just for everyone watching or who watch this on Instagram and YouTube, me and Anthony have a lot of collaborations coming up just in February alone. We've reached out to a lot of creators, so what to kind of expect from us in February is just a lot of creator collabs. It's something we wanted to do this year.
Yes, sir.
Collab with a lot more people, and also bring on people that we haven't chatted with in a while. So you'll see some familiar face on the channel as well. When it comes to my side of things on the UFC interviews, I have a couple that I'm planning, so you'll see those as well probably soon. But as far as February goes, prepare to see these collaborations with a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
different creators. We're looking forward to speaking to some new faces and kind of getting our podcast out there more, which is kind of the goal. But
Oh yeah.
um, just to kind of wrap things up for everyone watching, we appreciate you all. Make sure to hit that subscribe button as well. We're on the road to 1,000 subs. Also over on Instagram, we're on the road to 3,000 followers, and once we hit that 3,000 follower um, goal on Instagram, I'll probably have some type of giveaway
Yes, sir.
set up like I did last time for 3,000 followers, which that's over the top talk, which we use for pretty much everything. Over the top talk again. We're on Instagram, Twitter/X. We're even on TikTok, and obviously over here on YouTube, which we'd appreciate if you dropped a sub.
Hmm.
And
Yes, please.
and until next time, that is the live stream, and we'll catch you guys soon. So
Thank you,
thank
guys.
you everyone for watching.